Could they go linebacker? Could they go quarterback? Could they go offensive lineman? Or could they go cornerback? Did that rhyme? I don't really know. But the Rams and their first round pick in this year's draft is very, very important. Who will the Rams take? We're going to discuss all that and much more on today's episode of the Rams Digest. I'm your host, Joshua Giron. Remember, if you guys are not subscribed to the channel, do me a favor. Press that subscribe button now. It's roughly 68.6% of you guys are 68.6% of you guys are watching the videos, but you're still not subscribed to the channel. So do me the favor, press that subscribe button so you don't miss any daily Rams content here at the Rams Digest. We're talking today about the Rams potentially taking a cornerback in round one. And so obviously when we look at the cornerback room, Darion Kendrick, right? Some of the images we showed in the intro video. Darion Kendrick coming off of ACL tear. Emmanuel Forbes, very thin, slim body, hasn't really proven to do much in the NFL yet early in his NFL career. Will he ever become that player? We'll have to wait and see. And then also Kobe Durant, Ahkello Witherspoon. I mean, the Rams have talented players at the cornerback position that could play the role next season and could start for you next year. But are the Rams really confident in this position group going into next season? Well, we'll have to wait and see on that as coming this draft season. Obviously, this Thursday is the NFL Draft 2025. The Rams' biggest need heading into the NFL Draft, we're talking about the cornerback room. As much as I will say I am okay with one of these guys starting, right? Maybe Emmanuel Forbes takes a leap. Maybe Darion Kendrick comes back and looks better than he has in the past, or just looks at least healthy. That's definitely really important from his perspective. Maybe Kobe Durant takes a step forward. Maybe Ahkello Witherspoon steps up again. Either way, either one of those routes, the Rams end up finding a path in. It'd be great. It'd be fine for them. They can kind of make it work with what they have in the DB room. But I think the Rams should go into this season, again, trying their best to be better at every single position. And right now, you don't want to have any weak points, and the cornerback room just seems to be one of those places on the defense side of the ball, especially. The Los Angeles Rams were an offense-first team in 2024. This comes to us, by the way, from Cameron DeSilva of the Rams Wire. Despite some low-scoring wins late in the season, the Rams finished 11th in a Pro Football Sports Network's offense plus metric, but just 24th in defense, driven mostly by porous pass coverage. Los Angeles was 27th or worse in both EPA per dropback and success rate in coverage. That makes a cornerback a need for the Rams after the Rams did not make any changes to the secondary in free agency when identifying draft fits at the position. It's worth noting Chris Shula's scheme, the Rams played zone coverage at the highest rate, 78%, with the cover 3 being their most common coverage, 6th highest in the league. So overall, in general, right, when we're talking about the Rams and what they looked like last year, we do give a lot of credit to the defense. The defense kind of at some points, especially when we're talking about the playoffs, kind of carried the Rams in terms of that pass rush, right? Especially when we're remembering that game versus the Minnesota Vikings, right? I think it was like incredible amount of sacks, right, in one game. But overall, I think the Rams, we talked about this, right, as we were talking on the Rams Digest, the Rams defense did need some help. They still weren't playing the best football overall, generally speaking, especially when it came to the run defense side of things, for sure. Obviously addressed that with Puka Nacua, but have still not addressed the defensive backs, the cornerbacks in general. The safety room, I think a lot of Rams fans feel the safety room's pretty solid. They have a couple guys. They have a nice depth pieces. But overall, I think we can all acknowledge, again, no offense to any of the players who are currently on the roster, as I think they are fine players and they have stepped up at big times and throughout the season. But overall, I think the Rams could improve at that position, and that's where I think the Rams really should lean into attacking that cornerback room, especially early in the draft. You're looking for starters early in this draft, right? You don't have a second-round pick. So if the Rams, again, I've been saying this over and over and over again. I know it's like a broken record, but the Rams do not trade back, pick up a second-round pick in the draft. Now you're going from the first-round 26th pick to the third-round 90th pick. I mean, that's an incredible gap in terms of one draft pick to another, and this seems to be a good draft class to trade back. There seems to be some pretty good talent spaced out throughout the draft, and that's where I think the Rams kind of actually do their best work. Obviously, they haven't had that many first-round picks in recent years, aside from Jared Verse, but overall, I think you're talking about Kobe Turner being a later round, Kyren Williams, Puka Nacua, Byron Young, these guys all drafted in the third round or later. And so I think that's where the Rams work their magic. maybe where the Rams should trade back, get some more picks later in the draft, and obviously still pick up a pretty valuable player. I think you still pick up a really good player with the first pick in the draft if you trade back to the second round, either at the end of the first or beginning of the second. But overall, I think the Rams, if they stand put, there are a couple of interesting ways they can go. We're talking mock draft Monday here. This is going to kind of segue into what we were just discussing. When we're talking about the Rams taking a cornerback, let's look at the Rams taking a cornerback. This is kind of a player we're going to take in two different mock drafts. So you can see the first three picks the Rams take that I think the Rams really actually might end up taking. So here is my mock draft for maybe with the final mock draft. Maybe not. We'll see. Maybe we do on Tuesday or Wednesday. But overall, one of my last mock drafts of this season, or this offseason, the Rams, first pick, 26th pick in the draft, they take cornerback out of Ole Miss, Trey Amos. Now, a little bit of a spoiler here. He's going to go in the next draft we do out of Pro Football Network's mock draft simulator. But overall, I think Pro Football Focus, I said this before, they have a pretty good system. I like where the guys are kind of ranked, generally speaking. And I think Trey Amos, it would be a little bit of a reach, right? PFF on their big board, they have him at the 28th pick in the draft. I've seen some people have him as an early second round pick. Some people have him a late first round pick. Overall, I think when the Rams are picking in the end of the first round, they need to take a player who is going to be in that range of rankings. And overall, if you can't find a trade partner to go back with, then ultimately you have to go with the player you think may have the biggest impact, I think, for you in the first year of their career. If you're not taking a quarterback here, like Jackson Dart, right, the Jalen Milroes of the world, again, I don't really think that route is where the Rams should go early in this draft, then I think the Rams should take a position of need who can potentially start for you early in their career. That's where I see Trey Amos potentially making that happen for the Rams in the cornerback room. Then with the third round pick, 90th pick in the draft, I went with a receiver out of Washington State. Now, of course, again, I know a lot of Rams fans love Jordan Whittington. You love Tutu Atwell. But ultimately, I think the Rams are still looking for a solid receiver to be that third receiving option for them. Tutu will probably get some time, probably get some opportunity this next year, which is why I don't know if the Rams really take a receiver early. But say they do want to draft the best player available. This is one of the players here. He's ranked on PFF's big board as the 63rd player, and I took him with the 90th pick in the draft. Still got to see from PFF. But overall, Kyren Williams, pretty good numbers. 14 receiving touchdowns, I think, last year. Over 1,100 receiving yards. Pretty good numbers for a receiver. You're looking for him to be your potential receiver 3, maybe even 4 for you. And so I think that's where I think a guy like Kyren Williams could potentially be that perfect fit for the Rams at the third round. 90th pick in the draft. And then I, again, went with one of my favorites. I told you guys already, Harold Fannin Jr. I don't know if he's going to translate to the NFL. This would be kind of a boom or bust pick, but tight end out of Bowling Green, phenomenal numbers. I think over 1,500 receiving yards. Yes, 1,500 receiving yards from the tight end position. Again, smaller school. Not necessarily 100% sure he's going to translate into the NFL, but I think it's a risk the Rams should be willing to take because you're talking about a guy who was probably going to be your second tight end in his rookie season anyways, but as long as Tyler Higbee is healthy. And so if he's healthy and you're going to have Tyler Higbee on the roster anyways, take Harold Fannin Jr., see if he can kind of develop into being a solid 800 at least yards in a season receiving wise moving forward. That's kind of the interesting kind of route I think the Rams could take. Moving into Pro Football Network's mock draft, the one that I pulled from there, a little more interesting name here, a new quarterback for the Rams potentially. I still went with Trey Amos, of course, in the cornerback out of Ole Miss. I think he's just the best kind of cornerback available around the range of where the Rams are going to be drafting. Seems to be typically readily available in multiple mock draft simulators, and so that's where I think the Rams could go. He feels like a Ram. Can't really explain it. I also heard Daniel Jeremiah, by the way, say that he feels like a Rams type of player. The Rams, when they're drafting their players, you guys have noticed, right? A lot of the Rams players are very, well-spoken. They're very professional. They're very typically just kind of the way the Rams go in terms of when they find athletes. They seem to be liking the player, the person that the player is. And I think that's where Trey Amos will kind of fit what the Rams are building in terms of the culture in Los Angeles overall. I think Trey Amos kind of just feels like a Ram. And like I said, I heard Daniel Jeremiah say that as well. Quarterback, Will Howard with the 90th pick in the draft, quarterback out of Ole Miss. My co-host Josh also says he really likes and appreciates really likes Will Howard as a prospect this year. And so I think that's where I talked about this already with multiple quarterback options. The Rams could go Jackson Dart, Jalen Milroe, but at this third round pick, I think the Rams could potentially see all those guys be off the board, and so that's where Will Howard comes in the conversation. Maybe even Quinn Ewers out of Texas comes in the conversation. either one of those quarterbacks, I think the Rams may be looking into in the third round just to potentially have that future quarterback for you. But again, we've heard Sean McVay say, hey, I haven't really done much work on quarterbacks. Yes, the Rams have been meeting with quarterbacks, doing their due diligence, but I don't know if Sean McVay really wants one. They also brought back Jimmy Garoppolo to back up Matthew Stafford, and so I don't know if they're going to want to hold 3 quarterbacks. What are they going to do with Stetson Bennett? Who's going to be in the practice squad? Are you going to have this rookie be a third emergency quarterback every single game? I don't know what they plan on doing, but I think the Rams do need to address quarterback. Will Howard seems to be a guy who could potentially be a guy who can start for you in the future. Last but not least, linebacker Danny Stutzman out of Oklahoma. I think a good, solid linebacker, good size, 6'3", I think over 230. Overall, just a guy I think that could be a solid kind of ideal linebacker for the Rams. Again, a guy you're going to need to hopefully be patient with. Not that the Rams have much time to be patient in terms of what they got in the linebacker room right now. But overall, I think the Rams, no disrespect to guys they have in the room right now, that is one of the weaker points on the defense. They seem to not value linebacker, and so third round, let's see what Danny Stutzman can do with the Rams, hopefully getting some playing time early in his NFL career. Those are my 2 mock drafts. You guys let me know what you guys think about them. Maybe one of the last ones. We'll see if we can do one on Tuesday, Wednesday. Maybe Josh and I get together, do a little bit of a fun mock draft together as well before Thursday. We'll have to wait and see what happens, but super excited for the draft season. Super excited. We've been talking about the hypotheticals and what ifs all couple months long, right, making videos. I'm really excited to see where the Rams actually go in this year's draft, because it's a very, very intriguing draft. You have prospects like Shedeur Sanders, who can go top 5, but also can go 21, right, to Pittsburgh, I've seen people say, or Jackson Dart, or Jalen Milroe. We said third round, and now all of a sudden he's a first-round pick potentially. So very intriguing to see where all of these guys end up falling, especially when we're talking about the Rams and who falls in the Rams' lap in the draft on Thursday. Hope you guys are just excited as I am. Moving on from that, last but not least, my favorite part of the episode, trivia of the day. I give you a trivia question. You guys give me your trivia guesses down below. Whether you're right, whether you're wrong, we'll give you a shout out on the next episode. Last trivia of the day, we pose this question here. Before going onto coaching fame in the NFL, Vince Lombardi was one of the 7 blocks of granite as a lineman at what college? A few of you guys had an opportunity to guess and play along. If you guys missed it, it's okay. We'll have a trivia of the day soon after this. I give a shout out to the people who got this one right or wrong. But if you guys want to play along with today's, play along after we shout these people out. Here, as last episode trivia of the day, where we had these guesses here. Lamar Singleton said, I think Notre Dame. The real Jay Will says Notre Dame. This is probably wrong, but feels right. And Floyd says Notre Dame, ? Again, the question posed was, before going to coaching fame in the NFL, Vince Lombardi was one of the 7 blocks of granite as a lineman at what college? Was it Yale, John Carroll, Fordham, or Notre Dame? The correct answer, 100% of you guys got it wrong. I appreciate you guys playing along, though. Notre Dame was a pretty good guess. Feels like somewhere that Vince Lombardi would have gone, but he went to Fordham University, apparently. So shout out to you guys for playing along. I appreciate the guesses. Lamar Singleton, the real Jay Will, Floyd, appreciate all of you guys playing along. If you guys want to play along again on today's episode of the Trivia Day, we'll play along with this question we're about to pose here. Today's trivia day is this question here. In a 1994 father-son matchup, Don Shula surpassed son David when David was the head coach of what NFL team? By the way, fun fact for those who somehow don't know this, Chris Shula is part of the Shula family. Obviously, very, very legendary coaching tree you have here. We have obviously head coach Don Shula, head coach David Shula, and now defensive coordinator of your Los Angeles Rams, Chris Shula, running the defensive side of things for the Rams. The multiple choice options were, was this A, the Saints? Was it B, the Seahawks? Was it C, the Bengals? Or was it D, the Cardinals? Now, Chris Shula has mentioned this team multiple times. So if you guys have seen Chris Shula talking in interviews, he may have brought this up before in the past. But again, in a 1994 father-son matchup, Don Shula surpassed son David when David was the head coach of what NFL team? Give your guesses down below in the comments. Whether you're right, whether you're wrong, we'll give you a shout out on the next episode. Other than that, that's going to do it for me on today's episode of the Rams Digest. I'm your host, Josh Giron, and I am out.